Irish peat. Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video I'm going to do a review of the legendary Dark Silkie Irish whiskey. When I first heard about this, absolutely had to get a bottle. I'm really excited to get into this because it is made with Irish peat and not Scottish peat. So before I get into this, here are my notes. The legendary Dark Silkie Irish whiskey is made from 100% Irish peat. It is a blend of double distilled and triple distilled peated single malts and soft grain whiskey. The malt has been peated to 55 ppm. Post distillation, it drops to 22 ppm. It's aged in sherry cask. It is non-chill filtered. It's bottled at 46% alcohol by volume and sells for $39. Alright, so if you ask anybody about Irish peated whiskey, the only name they're probably going to come up with is going to be Connemara. Connemara uses peat from Scotland, most likely from Islay, and it has those oceanic, briny, medicinal, iodine characteristics that you get from Islay whiskey, such as Laphroaig, Lagavulin, Ardbeg, Kalila, Bomar. You know what I'm talking about. So I love Islay peated whiskeys, and I love, you know, these sort of dark medicinal Band-Aid briny characteristics, but sometimes I like a peated whiskey that's a little bit different, that has more of a barbecue savory note than that oceanic character, and this definitely brings it. I like the fact that it's made from, as far as I can tell from everything I've been able to find, that it's made with Irish peat. Now I have another Irish peated whiskey which I've compared with this, and it definitely can see that they are a cousin. This is the Andalusia Whiskey Company at Revenant Oak Peated Whiskey. This is actually from Texas, and off camera I tried these side by side, and this is what these two whiskeys are like. Imagine two brothers. One heads off to the United States and one stays in Ireland, right? Then both of these Irish brothers have children. So now one has children born in the United States, the other one has children born in Ireland. So the Texan child, born of an Irish father, has a Texas accent, and then you have the cousin who has a Irish accent. That is what these two are like. There's a definite relation between them. You can see the correlation between the Irish peat, and yet obviously one is going to have sort of that Texas influence growing up in Texas, and that's exactly what these two are like. You can see or taste and smell the characteristics of that Irish peat, that similarity, but the Andalusia is much more intense, heavier. You can tell much heavier, faster extraction of cask, which is going to come from the climate there in Texas. So, absolutely fantastic whiskey, and I actually have another bottle. This is a heavy peated Irish whiskey from Andalusia, really dark. I haven't gotten into this one yet, but this will be coming up in a future series on non-Islay peated whiskeys. Now, in studying whiskey and wanting to better understand peated whiskey, you know, that buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, terroir, sense of place, I would say one of the most distinctive characteristics that can be in a whiskey is, if it's peated, is where that peat is coming from. Which is why I appreciate that this bottle is using Irish peat, because we're getting Irish soil, whereas Connemara, very nice whiskey, don't get me wrong, it's really giving over that sense of place over to Scotland. Nothing wrong with Scotland, obviously, but if you want to drink Ireland, then you want to drink Ireland. Now, from what I've heard is, in discussion groups, is the challenge of Irish peated whiskey is the maltsters aren't doing a lot of Irish malt. And so if you want a peated whiskey, you got to go outside of Ireland if you're going to get enough barley to make a peated whiskey. But hopefully this is going to change. If you listen to or watch Stories and Sips, or if you're a member of the American Irish Whiskey Fans, or the Irish Whiskey Fans of America Facebook group, you'll see a lot more conversations going on there about what is going on in Ireland, and you can find out about peated whiskeys that are going to be coming up. In fact, Teeling Distillery is going to be coming up with Black Pitts peated Irish whiskey But their peat is not coming from Ireland, it's coming from Scotland. So I really like the fact that this one is at least using Irish peat, as far as I can tell. Now, where is the actual spirit come? What distillery? They don't state. It's probably coming from Cooley Distillery. But one of the things I like about it is transparent, at least here on the label, everything about the whiskey, but they don't tell you what distillery it comes from. They do tell you it's made from double distilled and triple distilled. Double distilled and triple distilled. So it's a blend of double distilled and triple distilled single malts plus soft grain. So the fruit, spice notes, and the peat are, say, really evenly balanced. And the nature of the peat and the smoke is non-medicinal. There's none of the iodine. There's none of that heavy oceanic character, although it does have a little bit of saltiness. And it's really interwoven with all the characteristics really well. For me, I absolutely love when a whiskey is smoky, savory, sweet, salty, and sherried. Those are the 5 S's. And when you hit all those, I'm in absolute heaven. And this whiskey does that. It's got a nice barbecue note, barbecue meat. Then you get the sherry notes of dried figs, dates, raisins, but there's also a more tart stone fruit note like apricots, perhaps a little bit of apple and pear. There's a vanilla, there's a little bit of chocolate going on there as well. All right, on the palate. This is an absolutely dangerously delicious whiskey. This is a bottle I could kill really easy. And at that price point, if I had them more readily available, this is a bottle I could probably knock out in about a week. Really delicious. It's sweet up front, savory in the back. It's got the fig, the dates, the raisins. It's got this real nice, velvety, silky chocolate note. It's got the little bit of spice, got that little bit of a ginger note, a little bit of cinnamon. And what sticks around the back end is a very, I would say, moderate sort of barbecue smoke. It's as if you eat some barbecue meats, and you know how you get like maybe a little piece of meat stuck between your teeth, and so you get that, still got that barbecue character sticking around. That's what you get from this whiskey. Texturally, it feels silky, has sort of a glossy feel, which you can expect from Irish whiskey. I think that's sort of, obviously not all Irish whiskeys are like that, but it's very common in Irish whiskeys. So it has that sort of glossy feel to it. It has real nice transitions. You get the sweetness up front, you get the dried black fruit notes up front. The smoke is all the way through from the beginning to the end, and it's interwoven with everything. There's absolutely no competition, even from the neck pour, between the smoke notes and everything else. The chocolate and the vanilla, it's like a fudge character. It kicks in the mid palate. And what sort of lingers is a sort of lighter spice notes. I would say particularly ginger and cinnamon, vanilla, and that sort of the chocolate and the smoke as well. Now, what I'm going to give it in terms of a score, the challenge of scoring a whiskey like this is, part of scoring is comparing one type of whiskey with other whiskeys, right? So you compare a bourbon with a lineup of other types of bourbons in a similar category. You compare, sherried whiskeys, peated whiskeys, and so on, Japanese whiskeys, along with their peers, and how does it compare with its peers? And because there's not a lot of Irish peat out there, other than, say, Andalusia, which even Andalusia is not readily available. You got to go down to Texas to get those bottles because it's a small family-owned distillery. It's difficult to score. So I got to go a little bit more subjective. Got to go by, how much do I really like this? And I'm going to go a solid 90 points. A solid 90 points. What would it take to go a little bit higher? I would say maybe a little bit more variation from front to middle into the finish. But having said that, it is an absolutely delicious whiskey, and if you love peat and you happen to be able to get your hands on this, it's a definite must buy, particularly at that price point. If you don't have to pay shipping and handling, because it's $39, but by the time I pay shipping, handling and all that, you know, I'm getting closer to, you know, 60 bucks, 65 bucks. They're not inexpensive for shipping, but if you can get your hands on all these and you like peat, a definite must buy. In fact, I'm gonna keep my eyes open. I want to get another bottle. Alrighty, that's it for this review. If you like watching my videos, but you have not yet subscribed, I want to ask that you subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when I go live or post a new video. And if you are part of my Patreon group, my little group, I want to thank you very much. Alright, until next time, cheers.